If you are thinking about moving to Dubai with children, believe it or not, the cost of schooling is one of the biggest shocks to people who move here. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jamelia Greer. I'm the author of Building a Business Abroad. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also a parent that lives in Dubai. And today we're going to be talking all about the cost of schooling here in Dubai. So I'm going to answer all of your questions about how much it costs to send a child to daycare from as young as, a newborn baby to all the way up to older kids who are probably year 12 and getting ready to graduate. So stick around. I'm going to answer all of your questions. So the first thing you need to know is about fees. Fees for school in Dubai are regulated by Knowledge and Human Development Authority. They're also known as the KHDA. Everybody refers to them as KHDA here. And they regulate education as far as school rankings and status and tuition fees. And the schools have to submit the fee structure to KHDA annually. And the school fees are actually based upon the test scores and the education cost index. So the ECI is meant to cap increases for each year. So for 2025 to 2026, it's max 2.6% increase. So each school will have a fact sheet and you can download it before enrollment. All you have to do is go to that school's website and it will have it for you right there. So in addition to establishing how much schools can increase their fees, KHDA also issues school ratings. So the higher rated schools often charge more. So if you're looking at costs of schooling in Dubai, and you're looking at tuition prices and you're wondering why some schools are so much more expensive than other schools, it's because of the school rating. The first age group I'm going to talk about is the young ones. And of course, if you are new to Dubai and you're just setting up, it's probably going to be super important for you to figure out if you have a child age like 1 to 4, where you're going to send them for nursery. So in this age range, people generally choose between two options. They're either going to hire a helper or a nanny. I can make another video about that later. That's a totally different discussion, but people typically do hire live-in help here. Or you can send your child to daycare. And the nursery daycare fees range anywhere from 10,000 to 40,000 AED per year. So there are some sibling discounts, and many nurseries offer partial week attendance or morning only programs to reduce costs. But the reality is that all of the schools in Dubai, pretty much most of the schools in Dubai, your annual tuition is due before the start of school, and at most it's broken up into 2 or 3 payments. Now, for nurseries and daycare, they may accept monthly payments, but when we get into the primary and secondary school ages, it's important to note that your annual tuition fees are going to be payable in probably most cases, 2 payments. So let's move on to the primary age. So kids age 5 to 10, we usually call those primary age kids. And for this, the cost of schooling really can range. I mean, a place like Apple International for years 1 and 2 is probably around 21,000 AED per year, whereas a place like GEMS can probably be as expensive as 57,000 AED per year. And so it really varies. There's a huge difference in cost depending on the curriculum. So if you're coming from the US and you want your kids to stick with the US curriculum, there are certain schools that focus on that. If you're coming from UK, there are schools that have UK curriculum. And even if you want your kids to go to IB, like my oldest son did, and my daughters are going to an IB school, that's an option too. So the curriculums differ greatly. So even though we are talking about the school ratings, and I mentioned that the ratings basically impact the cost of school, I don't want you to walk away from this video and just assume that a lower school fee means lower quality. That's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily a one for one. It also depends on the curriculum as well. So, how about those kids ages 11 to 18, those that are going to secondary school? You know, the secondary school kids, it is more expensive. I will just say that right off the bat. When you get to grades 6 to 8, cost can be as low as around 69,000 dirhams per year, AED per year, or it could be as expensive as around 85,000. Some schools are around that all the way up to year 13. So you should check and see if the school includes IB exam fees and tuition. Some don't. I know that we were hit with a fee of around 2,500 dirhams when my son got ready to take his IB exams. So factor that in as well so you don't have any unexpected expenses. And finally, I mentioned IB schools. You know, talking about IB schools, one that is probably well known in Dubai is Dubai International Academy. That's there. And some families choose IB early because colleges typically understand that an IB curriculum is a little bit more rigorous than other curriculums, but the cost is higher. So you're not just paying for academics, you're paying for a brand, you're paying for resources, and maybe future pathways. So consider that as well. I think when you are raising your kids abroad, you always need to be thinking, where are they going to go to college, right? And in that country, what curriculum do colleges prefer? So that's something that you should definitely look into. And while we're talking about tuition, do not forget about the hidden costs. So that's the real talk here. So uniforms, books, transportation. I know I talk a lot about the buses here, particularly when it gets hot. You're going to want to get that sorted. Buses can be as expensive as around 6,000 dirhams per year per child. There could be lab fees. You'll have after school activities that sometimes are not paid for by the school. Most of the time, they're not. So things like squads and other sports and things like that, you'll have to pay for out of pocket. And of course, as you finish your first year here, don't forget to ask about re-enrollment fees. Sometimes there are deposits that are due before the school ends. So you could be finishing up one school year, and before your kid is even finished up with that school year, they'll say, if you're coming back for next year, don't forget to give your deposit. So I hope all of that has been helpful for you guys. Choosing the right school is super important. And I know we're all cost sensitive, but I urge you to look into other things as well, like social fit, what, distance, what distance is it from your home? How long is the commute going to be for your child? And remember, you're building your life abroad with your child, and education is one of the biggest investments you'll make. So make it with clarity, not with pressure. Don't feel pressured to do what everybody else is doing. Do what's right for you and your family. So I hope this was helpful. Subscribe for more breakdowns on the real costs of living in Dubai, from housing to healthcare, and check the description for links to some of my other videos where I talk about raising kids in Dubai. Take care.